In Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, a 64-year-old man was sentenced to 10 days in jail for felony voter fraud in the 2020 election. He was convicted in a 2019 felony drunk driving incident and ineligible to vote. Former Minneapolis police officer Alexander Keung was sentenced to 3 years, and Officer Thao sentenced to 3.5 years for their roles in the death of George Floyd. In Danbury, Connecticut, 19-year-old Derek Sotelo was sentenced to 5 years plus 5 years probation for the Danbury Fair Mall shooting that resulted in a 14-year-old girl being shot. Guy Reffitt of Wylie, Texas, was sentenced to 7 years in prison for his role in the January 6 Capitol riots. Reffitt's son turned him into the FBI, leaving their family torn apart. In Bellingham, Washington, 30-year-old Kamee Nicole Dixon was sentenced to 34 years in prison for abusing 3-year-old Hazel Homan to death. In Chicago, Illinois, 48-year-old Pedro Ibarra was sentenced to 50 years in federal prison for sexual exploitation of a child. In South Florida, Katherin Magbanua was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, as well as 2 consecutive 30-year prison terms for a murder-for-hire shooting of Florida State University law professor Daniel Markel 8 years ago.
On count 1, which is the count of first-degree murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to life in prison with no eligibility for probation or parole. On count 2, which is the conspiracy to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. On count 3, the solicitation to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury of that count. You are adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. You have credit for time served of 2,119 days. Your court costs are $2,625 and $100 cost of prosecution, and those will be civil judged.
Support this channel and pick yourself up some original crime-related apparel. Look for the link in the description.